Sunday.
There you go.
Wonderful stuff. Okay, this is the roller coaster continues with Hampton Roads weather, but I still think we have a lot more good than bad here.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of early March, as far as that goes.
And I'd rather take the rain, snow, sleet mix during the day on, Nia and I won't even be here, but during a work day, but compared to the weekend.
Where are you guys going?
Oh, we're going outside.
Oh,
we're outside.
Nia and Taylor leaving us at the same time. What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Not like we planned it or anything.
Right. We'll need stories when you guys return.
Say again?
We'll need stories when you guys return.
Oh.
At least one story fit for air here on Live Impact News.
Okay.
Okay? It can be a meal even. The description of some tasty food that you guys got.
I do think one of the best things we'll probably do is we're going to Chicago. So we're going to go somewhere cool. So at least we won't leave you guys back in the cool by yourselves. We're going somewhere else cold.
Okay.
But it's St. Patrick's Day weekend. And so they're like changing the river to green as they do every year. I'm super excited to see that.
Oh, that's right. They do. Okay, then that's perfect. That's all. That's what we'll need from you guys. They're changing the river to green. And Nia, I'll stop you real quick. I see you clipping this interview. I clipped it before we started. I know. Okay, changing the river. I know. I wanted to try to save Nia a little bit of work there if I could. That's the thing, a little behind the scenes look. While we're doing all this, Nia is also doing a whole nother job while participating and kind of guiding us through our forecasts. Okay, the Green River, I'm in. You guys are going to jump into it. You're going to swim around, the whole thing.
No. We got our hair done.
That's not a part of this. No, not a thing.
And even if I didn't, no.
You guys have an awesome time in Chicago. We still got another day with Nia and Taylor here. Well, maybe not with Taylor.
Well, no, not with me, actually. I have a school visit tomorrow, so I'll be out on the premises at a career day up in Hampton.
Very nice.
I'll be on the peninsula. It's Hampton or Newport News, one of those.
One of the two, Hampton or Newport News. Okay, so we'll say goodbye to Taylor for the week. Have fun in Chicago.
Yes, thank you.
We look forward to your return with
We're so close to
stories.
getting on the plane. I'm so excited.
The excitement
I'm ready
is
to hear
palpable
my
in here.
suitcase rolling across the ground.
I'm just ready to be in my little seat with my little window seat and looking out the window. Oh, I love it.
You guys are so ready.
Very. I mean, our
so
flights leave in less than 48 hours.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is very exciting stuff. We will miss you dearly, but we look forward to the return. Also, I just looked up this Chicago River Green thing. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, the whole river turns green. But I thought it was like a whole week thing. Someone said it was only for a few hours, but I don't know how that works.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess we'll get to witness it. I don't know.
You guys will get to witness it. You know what?
And I think it's one of the largest St. Patrick's Day celebrations in the country. I think it might be the top one.
Okay, I am going to pull this up really quickly on the Scan PC because I cannot believe just how green this river is. I thought it might be sort of a murky situation. But this is, so this is the development of it. Let me go ahead and find.
Wow, that is so pretty.
Right? I can't believe this.
Are y'all able to pull it up so I can see it too?
Yeah, I'm trying to wait till we can pull it full.
I'm trying to pull it full. We apologize for the delay.
This is how Live Impact News works, y'all.
Yes,
we do stuff in real time. That's what I love about this.
While we're finding a good picture here, do you guys have any specific plans, any places you're going or celebrations you're doing while you're in Chicago?
Well, for me, this is going to be my 4th time in Chicago in the past 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love Chicago. So, Nia, I want to know what you're excited for because, I'm always excited to be in Chicago.
I'm excited to see everything. It's such a city vibe. All the rooftop activities and things where you can look over the city and see all the tall buildings. Jacksonville has taller buildings, but it's nothing like Chicago, skyscrapers and all that. So I'm excited to see that.
Chicago has the second most amount of skyscrapers in the U.S. behind Manhattan.
Is that right?
It is, and the third most in North America is Panama City. So New York City,
not know that.
Chicago, then Panama City in North America.
This is just a classic. Taylor Stephenson always has a
I'm a
useful
nerd.
fact.
I live in fun facts.
Always
I'm a nerd.
Fact. Okay, we can go ahead and pull this up, Nia. This is from the Associated Press right here. It gives you a look at kind of how they're making it. And then also the river itself. So
it's like an emerald green, like a gem. Oh, wow. It's so pretty.
Let's see if they have any more pictures here. Okay, that's it for the pictures. But yeah, that'll give you an idea of what our friends Taylor and Naya are going to see. And this is crazy with him almost like a fluorescent before it hits the river.
I thought it was maybe a pump underwater that they were pushing.
Oh, no, they just put
I didn't know it was like a... So maybe they'll filter it out afterwards.
It says the river stays bright for several hours. Some trace of color can remain for days. Tradition began 63 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, well, you guys have a wonderful time.
I'm so
We'll miss you.
excited. There's a parade and everything, and we have our green packed, so, not going to get peached.
We would like to apologize to anyone who doesn't have a vacation plan this weekend. We know that that's difficult to listen to the excitement and the plans. Thank you so much, Taylor. You're the best.
Yes, of course.
That does it for your weather forecast and other things.
Yes.
Here on Live Impact, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and we have a lot of news to get to when we return. For now, a quick break. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News, where we are sort of rapidly learning about a developing situation in Baltimore. So we're going to show you a live picture out in Baltimore. Now, our ABC feed tells us that this is images, video from outside a shooting scene in Baltimore. We then go over to ABC News, where there is an updating article that was posted for the first time at 1:05 p.m. So this is some breaking news that we are discussing here. I'm kind of reading through this information as we go. So we're going to go through this together, a little bit of sort of learning for both myself and those watching. So what do we know? A police officer was shot in a, quote, active shooter incident, end quote, in Baltimore on Tuesday, according to police. Now, a suspect has also been shot, according to the Baltimore Police Department. That is the first two sentences, the foundational sort of necessary information in this article. There's not a ton of other information. The shooting occurred on the 62nd 100 block of Park Heights Avenue, according to police, and they have urged people to avoid the area. The officer has been transported to an area hospital, and authorities have not released any information on the condition of the officer or the suspect, other than that the officer has been transported to an area hospital. And so now we take a look at the scene, obviously very active, as you can see, law enforcement officers and others out just at the scene attempting to gather information, discussing amongst themselves. I mean, again, those two sort of foundational pieces of information. A police officer was shot in an active shooter incident in Baltimore on Tuesday, according to police, and a suspect has also been shot, according to BPD. And that active shooter incident is in quotes. That is how it's described in this ABC News article. Other than that, we don't have much information. It's something that we'll certainly keep an eye on. I wonder, Naya, if you think it's worth it to pull this location up on the map, or if maybe you think we should wait for more information to come out and we can continue our coverage later on, as the camera sort of resets here and looks like some police tape being splayed as we speak, marking off other parts of this crime scene, as you see officers there on the corner getting some things together. So this is, again, 1:05 p.m. is when this was posted on ABC News. The live feed came to our attention at 1:22 p.m. So this is a very, very recent development. And so we don't have a lot of information, but we certainly will continue to search for information and bring you updates as they come to us. I will sort of do a little bit of searching as we speak here. We will check in. Let's check in with our Baltimore ABC sister station and see if there is any more information they've been able to gather locally. Okay, so officers note, this is Channel 2 WMAR ABC. This is one of our sister stations in Baltimore, and they include in their article that officers note they were taking sniper fire from the house, according to Broadcastify Audio. During the shooting, the officers were taking cover behind cars. Police say one of the involved officers was sent to shock trauma. There's no word on the officer's condition at this time, and as we know, the suspect was also shot. So more information from our local sister station in Baltimore there, including officers noting sniper fire from the house, according to Broadcastify, and officers taking cover behind cars. And then we knew that the police officer was taken to get medical attention. We hear now that shock trauma is where they went. And it looks like they are setting up a press conference there in Baltimore. That's all the information from our local sister station. Now, again, as you can see, they're setting up for a press conference in Baltimore. And so when that press conference begins, if we have live access to it, we'll certainly take you out to Baltimore to listen in, as this is a rapidly developing situation here. And it looks like Naya has pulled up the map. Naya, let's take a look at this map. Thanks so much for pulling that up so quickly for us. And there's Park Heights Avenue. We mentioned it's the 6200 block. And let's see here. It looks like to the left is a school of some sort. But this looks like, for the most part, residential areas from what we can tell just looking at this map. Again, looks like some sort of school over to the left. You see the cap and gown icon there to kind of indicate that that's a school. So yes, it is some sort of educational institution. That's a high school. So there is a high school just down the street, very, very close by. And then, of course, we have what appears to be residential housing, other than the building right next to it, which looks like some other sort of building. Let me see if I can gather some information about that school. Now, I do not know how to pronounce this school, to be honest with you. But I am going to read the tagline that they have on their opening page. Benos Yezorel is the best I can do here, of Baltimore. right down the street. It says Benos Yisroel. I apologize if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly. It says they educate each student in a nurturing Torah environment while instilling in her a love of Judaism, self-esteem, and lasting commitment to family, community, and Klal Yisrael as she charts her unique path in Avadas Hashem. So that is the tagline on the front page of that school that is right next to where this shooting appears to have happened. The officer-involved shooting, and then Agudath Israel of Baltimore, another establishment that looks like it's nearby that we can look up. And so we will do so. Again, we are learning as we go here, just like you. We're trying to keep you now. The address for this particular, for Agudath Israel of Baltimore, the address for that particular building after a Google search is 6200 Park Heights Avenue, which is the address that was included of the location of the shooting in our reporting from our sister station in ABC. It matches the address of Agudath Israel of Baltimore. And so, again, this is a general area that we are observing. So we do not necessarily know that it was involving that building. We can only kind of go based off of the information that we're getting from maps and reporting from our sister station and from ABC News National. Let's see if we can gain some more information on what that building is. Again, this is something that we are kind of learning about as you are learning about it with us. This is one of the benefits of Live Impact News, is that we get to go through and get this information as up to date as possible with a little bit of depth to it, but it also means that you have to bear with us as we make sure that we are getting all of the best possible information to give to you as we go. So again, Park Heights Avenue, Agudath Israel of Baltimore, located. Their location on their website is the same as the location that's being reported by our sister station and by ABC News National. But it is based on some of the live images we saw. It's a general area. That's what we know right now. A general area near 6200 block of Park Heights Avenue. We do not necessarily know that there is relation to that building, but we know that Agudath Israel of Baltimore is located very close by. And then it looked like, and there was a high school down the street as well. And then, of course, that we already spoke about. And then it did look like there was a good deal of residential buildings. So this is something that we are sort of looking through as we go. But this is the information that we can give you right now. We're trying to present all of the information that we can find here. But we are still learning about this particular situation, though we know, again, that an officer has been shot during an active shooter incident in the 6200 block of Park Heights Avenue, and we know that the suspect was also shot. We do not know the condition of either of those people. And then we also see that they are setting up a press conference on that live feed that we were observing just a little bit ago. And so all the information, okay, so we have just gotten word that on that live feed, officials will give an update on the officer-involved shooting in Baltimore. So we are bringing to you contextual information to pair with the reporting that we've had from our sister station in this particular situation. But as of right now, there's very, very little information about the shooting itself, other than an officer and the suspect have both been shot, and that we do not know the condition of either. There we have a federal agent that is on the scene as a part of our live coverage here. So this is something we're going to continue to monitor. I think that this may be as much information as we can give you right now. Again, the 6200 Park Heights Avenue is the listed address for Agudath Israel of Baltimore, but we do not know if that is involved in this shooting. but it is listed on the block where the shooting also is reported to have taken place. But again, we simply do not know. We try to break down. There's a high school down the road. There was residential areas. There was an apartment complex not far from this particular situation or this particular location. It looks like there could be businesses around based on what we're seeing from behind this press conference. There could be some businesses in the area. So there is plenty around in that area. We simply do not know where exactly within the 6200 block this took place, that we can definitively say. We're just trying to sort of look over the map and see what is around, while continuing to update our live coverage from our sister station that, again, is boots on the ground reporting here, or is in the area reporting. People obviously are being asked by police to avoid this area, and then we talked about how officers noted they were taking sniper fire from the house, according to Broadcastify. During the shooting, officers were taking cover behind cars, and one of the involved officers was sent to shock trauma. But as far as, we only heard of a suspect and an officer who have actually been shot. We have not heard of any civilians who have been shot. So that is, I guess, as far as where we're at right now, that is good news. We have not heard of that, but obviously very scary, tragic news to hear that a police officer has been shot, and a police officer has been taken to shock trauma. Again, no update on their condition. So again, that's all the details we can really give. We want to make sure that we are keeping an eye on this as we go, and as soon as that press conference starts, we will head out to Baltimore, to the Baltimore area. But for now, that's all the information that we have. So I think, Naya, perhaps we can move on to some of our main stories of the day, and this is something that we'll be with ostensibly for the rest of the day. As soon as that press conference begins, we will cut out back to Baltimore. Now, okay, let's transition here back to the story that has completely and totally dominated headlines across the globe, and that is the conflict in Iran, the United States and Israel's conflict in Iran that is ongoing, to the point where the Secretary of the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said that today will be the most intense day of strikes inside Iran. He spoke earlier today, and we are going to play that recording for you right now. Let's listen to the Secretary of the Department of Defense as the conflict in Iran continues into today. Let's take a listen right now to this press conference from earlier with Pete Hegseth.
Well, to our fellow Americans, brave warriors, and steadfast allies, good morning. You know, as someone who led soldiers in the streets of Baghdad and Samarra, Iraq, and who trained counterinsurgents in Kabul, Afghanistan, and who still carries the weight of brothers lost to Iranian terrorist proxies, many backed by the same Iranian regime we're confronting now, this fight, Operation Epic Fury, it hits home. Our generation understands this fight. For 47 years, these barbaric savages in the Iranian regime have murdered our brothers in arms, my guys, your guys, our guys, through their terrorist proxies and cowardly attacks. Now they race toward a nuclear bomb to hold the world hostage. The Iranians have targeted and killed thousands of my American brothers. That race to a nuclear bomb, President Trump will never allow it. Not now, not ever, not on our watch. The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. Like the terrorist cowards they are, they fire missiles from schools and hospitals, deliberately targeting innocents, because they know their military is being systematically degraded and annihilated. Iran's neighbors, and in some cases, former allies in the Gulf, they've abandoned them. And their proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas, either broken, ineffective, or on the sidelines. Iran stands alone, and they are badly losing. On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives, which are the same as the day I gave my first briefing here on Operation Epic Fury. They're straightforward, and we are executing them with ruthless precision. 1, destroy their missile stockpiles, their missile launchers, and their defense industrial base. Missiles and their ability to make them. 2, destroy their navy. And 3, permanently deny Iran nuclear weapons forever. It's a laser-focused, maximum authority mission delivered with overwhelming and unrelenting precision. No hesitation, no half measures. As President Trump declared yesterday, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so. We do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes. Intelligence more refined and better than ever. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, the last 24 hours have seen Iran fire the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet. Just the bifurcation, just the trend lines that we talked about on our first briefing. You see, this is not 2003. This is not endless nation building under those types of quagmires we saw under Bush or Obama. It's not even close. Our generation of soldier will not let that happen again, and nor will this president, who very clearly ran against those kinds of never-ending, nebulously scoped missions. Those days are dead. Instead, we're winning decisively with brutal efficiency, total air dominance, and an unbreakable will to accomplish the president's objectives on our timeline. We stay locked on the target because here at the Department of War, that's our job. Now, the chairman and I, having just returned from Dover last night, our troops and their families and the enormous sacrifice that they made is certainly heavy on my mind. So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge. May the Lord grant unyielding strength and refuge to our warriors, unbreakable protection to them and our homeland, and total victory over those who seek to harm them. And amen. God bless our troops and this mission. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm here today to continue the updates to the American people and to those in the room on Operation Epic Fury. First, let me start with honoring our fallen. As the Secretary said, on Saturday and again last night at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, our nation's leaders honored our returning fallen as they arrived home for their final time. Last week, I shared a few of the names, and today I want to share the rest. Major Jeffrey O'Brien and Chief Warrant Officer 3 Robert Marzan were the final two fallen to return home and members of the U.S. Army Reserve's 103rd Sustainment Command out of Des Moines, Iowa. Last night, as the news has been reporting, we honored the return of Staff Sergeant Benjamin Pennington of the U.S. Army's 1st Space Brigade from Fort Carson, Colorado. When I met Ben's family last night, his mom, his dad, and his sister, they showed me a picture, a drawing that Ben had made when he was in kindergarten. It was clear all the way back then that Ben wanted to do one thing in his life, and he wanted to serve his country and be a soldier. And to the Penningtons, just know how Ben was absolutely a great one. And finally, Major Sorfleet Davies, who returned home this weekend after sadly passing away from a medical condition while on duty in Kuwait. we welcome him home as well and mourn with his family. To the families and the families of all of our fallen, we share in your profound grief. The Joint Force remains eternally grateful for your sacrifice and the gift of a great example that your service members have given all of us. I want you to know that their names will never be forgotten, and you and your family are part of our Joint Force family forever. Let me talk a little bit about the progress thus far, acknowledging that Admiral Cooper will likely continue to give updates from CENTCOM. As the Secretary said, we're in the 10th, moving into the 11th day of Operation Epic Fury. The Joint Force remains focused on 3 military objectives: continue to destroy Iranian ballistic missiles and drone capability in order to prevent attacks on the U.S. and others throughout the region. And this means attacking launch sites, command and control nodes, stockpiles before they can threaten our personnel, our facilities, and our partners. Second, we continue to strike the Iranian Navy and their capabilities in order to do things like sustain movement through the Straits of Hormuz. And third, we continue to start working on and going deeper into Iran's military and industrial base in order to prevent the regime from being able to attack Americans, our interests, and our partners for years to come and project power outside their borders. This means servicing production facilities, research and development sites, and infrastructure. Let me turn to the map. We're going to try digital today to prevent laser injury. Since our last update, CENTCOM continues to make progress across the southern flank. To date, they've struck more than 5,000 targets. U.S. Strategic Command bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound GPS penetrating weapons on deeply buried missile launchers across the southern flank. We also have struck several one-way drone factories to get at the heart of their autonomous capability. And of course, alongside our regional partners along the southern flank, continue to execute intercepts against one-way attack drones using fighters and attack helicopters. Our strikes mean we've made significant progress in reducing the number of missile and drone attacks out of Iran. Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward, 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the beginning of the operation. A testament to our air defenders and our air defense systems, and as I said, our partners in the region continue to do great work as well. Second, we're making substantial progress towards destroying the Navy. In the first 10 days of the conflict, we're more than 50 Iranian naval ships into the campaign using a combination of artillery, fighters, bombers, and sea-launched missiles. As Admiral Cooper noted last Thursday, we struck and sank an Iranian drone carrier ship, and U.S. CENTCOM continues today to hunt and strike mine-laying vessels and mine storage facilities. This work will continue. Third, against our objectives, we've begun to target Iran's military and industrial complex, again, focusing on centers of gravity to get upstream of the shooters out in the field in order to deny them the ability to continue to generate those one-way attack drones. Let me spend a minute talking about the Joint Force. Across the area of responsibility, this is gritty and tireless work, and I cannot begin to explain how incredibly proud I am of the extraordinary courage, tenacity, and grit and professionalism within the Joint Force. Last time I had a chance to talk about the Army's incredible logisticians who are out there sustaining the fight. Today I want to highlight a few groups of sailors. First, I want to thank the men and women of the Ford Carrier Strike Group and their families, and let all of them know how grateful I am for their leadership and service. The crews on board this strike group have already been endured months at sea only to get their deployment extended. These exceptional Americans, rogered up, all supported by their families, continue to stand the watch, taking the fight to the enemy over and over again, night after night. Aboard ships like the USS Ford and the Abraham Lincoln are a special group of sailors I want to highlight today. These are the men and women, the sailors up on the roof, running operations on the flight deck. With an average age of the early 20s, these are the unsung heroes of naval aviation. These young sailors, known for wearing yellow shirts, are in charge of the catapults, taxiing jets around on the flight deck, shooting jets off the front end, and recovering jets off the back end. They are literally involved with every single movement on the roof on an aircraft carrier. They are the last ones that a naval aviator sees before getting shot off the front end, and the first one that a naval aviator sees after safely trapping on the back end. And just for a minute, imagine you're standing on that aircraft carrier flight deck. There's 30 knots of wind in your face. The deck is slippery, covered in grease. It's noisy. There are propellers spinning. There's jet blast everywhere. The helicopters are running. Your head is on a swivel, and you're trying to direct a multi-million-dollar fighter into a 1-foot square box so that those naval aviators can be shot off into the black of night to go do America's work. Those jets are fully loaded with missiles and bombs, and they are a world-class team combined with the naval aviation and the aviators in those jets. This beautiful symphony of American spirit is the definition of perfectly organized chaos, and these crews do it every single time the carrier is at work. Oh, by the way, in the middle of the night and oftentimes in the pouring rain. These are dedicated young people who take the road less traveled to serve their great nation, doing the deeds that we need them to do. America's enlisted force is the pride of every nation's military, certainly ours, and the envy of every other one as well. Each and every one of them out there across the joint force are extraordinary, and in particular today I want to highlight the yellow shirts. Ladies and gentlemen, our work continues. It'll continue to be difficult. I ask every American to keep our deployed force and their families in our thoughts. Combat deployments can be tough on the force and the families, and it's important that we continue to remember that. I remain deeply humbled by the 2.8 million members of the Joint Force, and I'll end where I started, and that's remembering our fallen and their families whose sacrifice will be felt forever. And with that, I'll take some questions with the Secretary.
A beautiful symphony of American spirit. Well said, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir.
And I will just note that no other country in the world is capable of executing what the chairman just described, day after day, night after night, unrelenting. Well said. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alexandra Ingersoll, One America News. You talked, Mr. Secretary, you talked at the conference in Florida on Thursday that there was a 90% missile capabilities degradation and 83% drone degradation, and I know the chairman just repeated those numbers. We've seen the most amount of fighting these past 5 days. Is there any update to those percentages? And also, are you able to give any quantification of degradation to the enemy's nuclear capabilities yet?
What those numbers represent is a persistent low ability to respond, which is what we're looking for, right? It's if the enemy can simply wait and then project power, that's problematic. And we've seen some spurts here or there, but ultimately the trend lines, if you look at the charts that we look at every day, have gone like this down to a flat. It doesn't mean they won't be able to project. It doesn't mean our air defenders still don't have to defend. They do, but that is strong evidence of degradation, along with the battle damage assessment that the Joint Staff does, which takes time. You've got to look at imagery and recognize whether something's been simply degraded or it's been destroyed, or whether an underground facility has been collapsed or completely obliterated. So there's differences in how you evaluate that, but the numbers staying that low is a demonstration of the efficacy for sure. Yeah, right here.
Thanks.
Okay, back in here in the live Impact News studio. That press conference not finished yet, but again, we have a lot to get to today, and live feed right here in front of us has just switched over to preparations for a White House press briefing. So we will be hearing directly from the White House, hopefully at some point in the next hour. That typically it is before 3 o'clock. So we will be going to that live, pending that there have been no new developments in the situation in Baltimore. Just in case anyone has joined us here recently in the past couple of minutes, we have been getting updates from our sister station in ABC. A Baltimore police officer was shot during an active shooter incident on Tuesday afternoon in northwest Baltimore. The shooting happened in the 6200 block of Park Heights Avenue. Officers note they were taking sniper fire from the house, according to Broadcastify audio. During the shooting, the officers were taking cover behind cars. Police say one of the involved officers was taken to shock trauma. The officer was shot in the leg, according to sources that tell this information to our ABC station in Baltimore. No word on his condition at this time. Outside of that, the suspect also shot. And we went into this in depth when we first learned this information, and we anticipate a press conference in Baltimore to give us more information. So we're going to continue on with some of our normal coverage. We plan on having an update on that story before long as well. So those are the two things we're monitoring in terms of our live feed, is that White House press briefing and a press conference from authorities in Baltimore after that shooting. What we're going to do right now is we're going to hear from Virginia Senator Mark Warner speaking about the conflict in Iran with the United States and Israel. Now, during this particular media availability, he may pause to take questions, and they may be questions that we're not able to hear, but please be patient. Nonetheless, his answers will come shortly thereafter. Let's listen in from Senator Warner.
Well, let's put it like this. Let's go through the 4 goals that President Trump has laid out. Regime change, it doesn't look that way. The new supreme leader is literally more conservative, more hardline. And since America and Israel has killed his father, his wife, and his kid, I'm not sure there's any room for negotiation. The second goal was taking care of Iran's nuclear capability. Clearly the conversation about going boots on the ground to go after the enriched uranium. There was conversation about that, but the fact that there's been no action on that indicates there's not a success there. The third was ballistic missiles, and while we have taken out some of the launchers, I'm not going to get into percentages, but the Iranians still retain a great deal of ballistic missile capacity. And the fourth, taking out the Iranian Navy, which was added late last week. I think we have sank some of the ships, but Iran has a huge number of these small kind of speedboats, small boats that can still really mess up the Straits of Hormuz. So I'm not sure we've even accomplished that goal. And I do think it was more than a little unusual that the president yesterday came out about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the markets were tumbling, gave what appeared to be a very positive outlook. The markets rallied, and then once the markets rallied, I'd like to know who made all the money there. The president then later in the evening went back to a more accurate assessment, and the markets are down today. So I don't think any of the 4 goals have been met, and I do wonder about this, frankly, manipulation of the markets they seem to be taking place. I think he is even more conservative and hardline than his father. And, I don't know how he can stay in power and still think the Americans and our Israelis, we could meet any kind of long-term goals that wouldn't have an Iran that would constantly be trying to reconstitute. But this tit for tat, I'm not sure, again, where this leads us. And the specific goals that the administration has laid out, while they didn't have goals, then they laid out a series. I'm not sure we've accomplished any of them, regardless of the president's comments to boost the market yesterday afternoon. I don't have a clear timeline. If the timeline was going to be actually to meet the 4 goals that the administration has laid out, that will take an indeterminate amount of time. It appeared yesterday, because the president was spooked about the rising gas prices, about $125 million a day Americans are paying in additional gas prices, that he was looking for an exit ramp. That seemed to last a little while. It seems we're back today to Hegseth saying, we're going to have the biggest attack of all of the war so far today. And clearly, if they're going to meet the goals, we've got a great deal of time to come. Well, I think a couple of things here. One, the amazing thing, Iran really has not even turned on all its proxies in the region. Well, Hezbollah and Israel are engaged. We've not seen the Houthis strike yet. We've not really seen the Iraqi Shia militias who are backed by Iran strike. That concerns me. The Iranians do have cyber and terror networks around. I think we have to be on guard on that. I fear that with the kind of cutbacks we've had at the FBI in terms of senior counterterrorism expertise, we may not be as well prepared. And I would, one point, there were a series of targets of senior American officials after the Soleimani strikes years ago during President Trump's first term. The previous supreme leader turned off those assassination attempts. I'm not sure now that he is gone and has been replaced by his son, what the status of those. And those included individuals like former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Okay, that is Senator Mark Warner speaking about the conflict in Iran. Also today, a Senate Armed Services closed briefing on Iran. A few senators spoke at the podium outside of this Armed Services briefing. We're going to listen in and hear from those senators right now.
Hi, thank you. Go ahead. Someone want to restate the question?
Yes. Anything you can say about a supplemental dollar figure, would Democrats support it?
So first of all, we can't discuss what was said in a classified briefing. If there were to be a supplemental proposed, we would have to see the text before I would commit to doing anything. And this is the reason why we've been calling over and over again for them to come out of the classified briefings to allow us to have these conversations as much as we can in an open setting, not just with the press, but with the American people and with our constituents, with our men and women who serve in the military, with their families who are waiting home for them. 7 of them, lives change forever when they have to plan the funerals this week. It is solely the responsibility of the United States Congress to declare war. Make no mistake, this is Trump's war. He says it every day. They can couch it however they want. If he wants to go any further, he needs to come out and have this discussion with Congress and the American people.
Senator, can I ask, without telling us anything you're unable to tell us, did you get an indication of how and when this conflict will end?
I can tell you what I heard is not just concerning, it is disturbing. It is absolutely, I have to think about what I can and can't say. It is concerning, it is disturbing, and I'm not sure what the end game is or what their plans are. They certainly have not made their case, I don't believe. And that's why they need to come out and talk about what they're doing, what the case is, and the disruption that they're causing for everyone. And by the way, all of my constituents in Nevada, gas prices are going through the roof. Tariffs still here. More problems are going to happen because of all of this. Prices are going to continue to go up. Housing is going to continue to go up. Energy is going to continue to go up. Healthcare, I have people that losing their health care. So the president needs to pay attention to what's happening right at the kitchen table of Americans like he promised. And if he does want to put us in a forever war, which it seems like he does, he needs to come out and let us be able to have this discussion. We'll take that gag order off us that they put on because we're in the
Senator, can I just ask you, it seems from the president's own words that the U.S. was close to some kind of end in Iran after this briefing. Is your sense that is not the case?
Well, I won't talk about what was in the briefing, but just look at the destruction and what's going on in the region. Do you think that the desalination plant that's hit in Bahrain, how do you think they're going to fare? Targets have been hit in Saudi, in UAE, in Bahrain, in Israel, and Jordan, all around the region. Do you think that that disruption just stops because President Trump just wants to make it so? He's not king of the world. He's not king of anything. He's president of the United States. He has a responsibility to our citizens and to take care of us first. And do you think because thinks he waves some magic wand that everything just stops? Lebanon? I mean, just pick a country, pick a city. You see what's happening. You see the bombs. You see the destruction. It's not going to stop just because he wishes it to be so.
To follow up on that, do you feel that the president or the administration has a plan to protect Americans? If he does decide to end the war, how do Americans or American assets in the region, American bases, how does he protect them without further engaging in war if Iran wants to keep fighting?
He has not shown to this Congress, to me, or I believe to us in our classified briefing, any ability. He's not shown us any plans for what he wants to do for the day after. Let's put it that way. That's as much as I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren. Senator Warren, can you stop? Can you stop at the camp?
Sure.
What do you think of what you heard, Senator?
Look, here we are well into the second week, and it is still the case that the Trump administration cannot explain the reasons that we entered this war, the goals we're trying to accomplish, and the methods for doing that. The one part that seems clear is that while there is no money for 15 million Americans who lost their health care, there's $1 billion a day to spend on bombing Iran.
Did they give you a cost estimate of the...
No, not in this setting.
They did not give you...
Yeah, what I'm saying comes from publicly reported information.
Are you worried about how long this will drag on?
I'm very worried about how long this will drag on. We are hearing no logical estimates about when it will be over.
Did you ask about the girls' school, the Tomahawk missiles, and
I
who was
can't
responsible?
talk. I can't talk about that here. I'm sorry.
Where would you be if they sent up a supplemental? And did they give you any indication this morning that a supplemental is on its way to Capitol?
At this point, I am a hard no on a supplemental. This is not a war the American people want us to engage in. This is not a war supported by this country, and this is not a war that makes us safer. For the Trump administration to say over and over, there's no money for health care, there's no money for child care, there's no time to pay attention to how families are paying more, but there's $1 billion a day to go to the Middle East and drop bombs on Iran for military purposes that no one can describe and that no one can explain how merely from dropping bombs from the air we will accomplish those ends. No more money. The one thing Congress has the power to do is to stop actions like this through the power of the purse. The military already has $1 trillion. The military already cannot pass a simple audit on where that money is. And for the Trump administration to come back and say shovel billions more into a war in Iran that is not supported by the American people and does not make us safer makes no sense at all. So I will be a no.
Thank you.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio, the conclusion of the stakeout outside of that Armed Services hearing. Again, a closed briefing on Iran today. We don't get to listen in on the briefing itself, but we at least get some context from the senators. Now, we're still waiting on both of our live events. A White House press briefing should be starting any minute, and hopefully a press conference in Baltimore with more information on that officer-involved shooting. Neither has begun. So for now, we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll explore some other headlines when we get back. Okay, back here in the Live Impact News studio, just in time, Karoline Leavitt has just taken the podium at the White House for a press briefing. Let's listen in live in D.C.
And give remarks at Verst Logistics in Kentucky. On Thursday, President Trump and the First Lady will host a Women's History Month event in the East Room. And on Friday, the President will sign several executive orders, and we will provide more details on those later this week. As President Trump shared with the American people last night, the United States military is making tremendous strides towards achieving our military objectives for Operation Epic Fury. 10 days in, this campaign has been a resounding success thus far, and America's warriors are winning this important fight at an even faster pace than we anticipated. More than 5,000 enemy targets have been struck so far. Iran's ballistic missile attacks are down more than 90%, and their drone attacks are down by approximately 85% since the start of Operation Epic Fury. The United States is also annihilating the Iranian regime's navy, and we have destroyed more than 50 Iranian naval vessels, including a major drone carrier ship. None of the regime's vessels are operating in major regional waterways, and the Iranian navy has been assessed as combat ineffective. The trend is clear. U.S. combat capabilities are increasing and growing more lethal and dominant by the day, while the Iranian terrorist regime's ability to respond has rapidly declined. Now, the U.S. military is moving to dismantle Iran's missile production infrastructure. Our incredible B-2 bombers recently dropped dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs on deeply buried missile sites. Last night, President Trump reiterated his commitment toward keeping oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz so the United States and all of our allies can receive their energy needs. President Trump will not allow rogue Iranian terrorists to stop the freedom of navigation and the free flow of energy. Let me be clear. It is a good thing to wipe out terrorists who indiscriminately target civilians and attempt to hold the global economy hostage, and President Trump should be commended for doing so. As the president made unequivocally clear to the remaining elements of this terrorist regime in his statement yesterday, if they do anything to stop the flow of oil or goods within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the world's most powerful military 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Moving forward, the stated objectives for Operation Epic Fury remain the same. Destroy the terrorist regime's ballistic missiles, raise their Iranian missile industry to the ground, ensure their terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region, and ensure that Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. President Trump remains confident these goals will be accomplished in swift fashion. As for the oil, President Trump fully expected the rogue Iranian regime to try and disrupt the global markets. That's why President Trump and his energy team have been planning for this long before the strike and have moved quickly to address these temporary disruptions. Thus far, the Trump administration has offered political risk insurance to tankers operating in the Gulf. The Treasury temporarily waived certain oil-related sanctions, and the Commander-in-Chief has offered the U.S. Navy to escort tankers when necessary. The president and his energy team are closely watching the markets, speaking with industry leaders, and the U.S. military is drawing up additional options following the president's directive to continue keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. I will not broadcast what those options look like, but just know the president is not afraid to use them. Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term. Once the national security objectives of Operation Epic Fury are fully achieved, Americans will see oil and gas prices drop rapidly, potentially even lower than they were prior to the start of the operation. And we will live in a world where Iran can no longer threaten the United States or our allies with a nuclear bomb. On another matter here at home, President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots like for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and, frankly, Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature. So with that today, I will take your questions. Benny, thank you for being here, and why don't you start us off?
Thank you, Caroline. So my first question is actually about the Save America Act. So one of the biggest things that the Democrats are saying, the claims that they're making, is that the Save America Act, it would prevent married women from voting in elections or make it harder for them. What do you have to say to those claims? Is there any validity to them, and where do you think they're getting this from?
There is zero validity to these claims, and I'm glad that you brought them up, because you have the Democrats who have created this myth, and it has been perpetuated, unfortunately, by many in the mainstream media. Let me be very clear. The Save America Act does not prohibit anyone from voting, with the exception of illegal aliens. And the greatest way to disenfranchise American citizens from voting in American elections is to allow illegal aliens to vote, which is what Democrats want to do. We see it taking place in Democrat jurisdictions at the state and local level across this this country. So the Save America Act corrects that. And as far as married women who have changed their name, if they're already registered to vote, they're entirely unaffected by the SAVE Act. And for the small fraction of individuals who have changed their name or their address, they can still register to vote, of course. They just have to go through their state processes to update that documentation. And this is something that the American people, married women and minorities and people all across this country who Democrats are insultingly saying cannot do this, they're already doing it every day, going to the Social Security office, going to the DMV, and I think it's frankly insulting that the Democrats are saying that there's certain groups of people in this country who aren't smart enough to update their documentation to allow them to vote. Again, this is a huge myth, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address it.
Of course, and then just one more question about DHS. The funding issue has been 3+ weeks now. I was at the airport this morning in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was early in the morning, and one of the TSA agents, I saw her, she was kind of tearing up, she was crying, and I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And she was like, I can't make my phone payment, I can barely make my car payment that's coming up. I think a lot in the Beltway, there's so much noise between Democrats, Republicans. It's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republicans' fault. But what is the White House's message to the American people that are struggling because they're not getting that paycheck? It's take away the politics. What do you have to say to those people?
President Trump wants the Department of Homeland Security. He wants TSA, he wants FEMA, he wants the brave men and women of our United States Coast Guard to receive their paychecks, and he wants this department to be fully funded and fully reopened. And so to any American out there who is struggling without a paycheck, we know there's more than 100,000 of you across the country. To any American out there who is showing up to an airport and facing incredibly long wait times and lines, call your Democrat member of Congress and tell them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. That's what President Trump wants to do, and it's completely ridiculous that the American people are suffering as a result of these partisan games that are being played by Democrats on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Steve.
You said the operation was going faster than anticipated. What is your current timeline for how long the war will last?
So look, as you know, Steve, the president and the U.S. military's initial timeline was about 4 to 6 weeks to achieve the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury. Again, to destroy their missiles and their ability to make them, destroy their Navy, permanently deny them nuclear weapons forever, and to, of course, weaken their evil terrorist proxies in the region. We know that the U.S. military and our brave warfighters are quickly and expeditiously executing these objectives well ahead of schedule, but ultimately the operations will end when the commander-in-chief determines the military objectives have been met, fully realized, and that Iran is in a position of complete and unconditional surrender, whether they say it or not.
Does the president still want Iran's unconditional surrender?
Well, when President Trump says that Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, he's not claiming the Iranian regime is going to come out and say that themselves. What the president means is that Iran's threats will no longer be backed by a ballistic missile arsenal that protects them from building a nuclear bomb in their country. I could make an empty threat, but if I have no actions to back it up, then it's an empty threat. And so President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies. Adriana.
Can you explain why the Energy Secretary posted and then appeared to have deleted a post on X saying that the U.S. Navy escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, I was made aware of this post. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Energy Secretary about it directly. However, I know the post was taken down pretty quickly, and I can confirm that the U.S. Navy has not escorted a tanker or a vessel at this time, though, of course, that's an option the President has said he will absolutely utilize if and when necessary at the appropriate time.
And if this was something that was posted erroneously, could it be because of a staffer? Will there be any consequences for this? I know you still have to consult, but just generally speaking.
Again, I would defer you to the Department of Energy to answer that question.
And if I could just follow up really quickly.
Sure.
In terms of oil sanctions, the president said that there would be some sanctions that would be lifted. Would those be on Venezuela, Russia? Could you give some specifics there and then timing for that as well?
Sure. I know it's something that the Treasury Department and the President's energy team continue to discuss, and they will ultimately consult with the President before decisions are made. I don't have any announcements on new sanctions or the lifting of new sanctions for you today. Alex.
Thank you. Reuters has reported that about 150 U.S. service members have been injured so far. Can you confirm that number and elaborate on that?
I can't confirm the exact number. I know it's within that ballpark, but I would defer you to the Pentagon for a specific number of wounded or injured thus far.
And then secondly, if I can, I wanted to ask about, there was a briefing on the Capitol Hill today, and some senators came out and said they were more convinced than ever that there would be U.S. boots on the ground. Senator Blumenthal said that, in fact. Your reaction to that and any update on President Trump's thinking about it?
Look, I would say that Democrats on Capitol Hill are clearly being quite disingenuous. 3 years ago, not a single Democrat voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's leading state sponsor of terror. Yet now, with President Trump as commander-in-chief finally taking the action that so many Democrats have called on the commander-in-chief to do for many, many years, to wipe out the threat of a rogue Iranian terrorist regime, now all of a sudden Democrats are playing politics with this long-standing bipartisan policy of the United States, and 53 of them in the House recently voted against the resolution condemning Iran as the world's state sponsor of terror. So I wouldn't take Democrats at their word. As for boots on the ground, the president has talked about this repeatedly. Wisely, he does not rule options out as commander-in-chief. So again, I would hesitate to confirm anything that a Democrat on Capitol Hill says right now about the president's thinking. Garrett.
John, you outlined to Steve the military components of what would be involved in ending this war, but it seems like there's a political component too. The president said to Fox earlier today that he doesn't believe the new Ayatollah can live in peace. He made a variety of comments suggesting that he should be involved in picking the new Iranian leader. Is the ending of this war also contingent on Iran selecting a leader that the president finds acceptable?
Okay, we are coming out of the White House press briefing. Typically, we would not do so. However, the update from Baltimore is set to begin a press conference live right now in Maryland. We'll get back to the press briefing as soon as that is concluded.
All right, hold on 1 second, sir. Sir, can you just say your name real quick so we can do an audio check?
Richard Worley.
Can I get a thumbs up? All right, sir.
You good? All right, good afternoon. I'm Commissioner Richard Worley. Here with me today are Mayor Brandon Scott, Dr. Scalia, Ken Thompson of our consent decree monitoring team, and Council President Zeke Cohen. About 11:52 a.m. this morning, officers received a call for a burglary to 6200 block of Park Heights Avenue. When officers arrived, they were immediately met with gunfire from the suspect firing from inside of a house. Officers took cover. Officers immediately took cover when an officer was struck by gunfire in the leg. A bunker team was put together and extracted the officer and applied a tourniquet and transported him to shock trauma for his injuries. Additionally, a female victim who jumped A female victim who jumped out the window while attempting to flee the scene was extracted. Both were transported to the hospital. SWAT officers responded to the scene and neutralized the suspect. He was pronounced deceased on the scene. SWAT was able to clear the home and a firearm was recovered. At this time, the Attorney General's office
has been notified, and our Special Investigations Response Team is investigating this incident. We have activated our critical incident response policy. Health and Wellness Team have been with the officer and are also at the scene. The mayor and I have also visited with the officer. He's doing well. The officer's a 36-year-old veteran of 13 years with the department. At this time, I will turn it over to the wonderful Dr. Scalia, who takes care of us all the time. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. Around 12:30, we admitted a Baltimore City police officer with a gunshot wound to the leg. Kudos to his buddy for having the wherewithal to put a tourniquet on him at the scene. I'm happy to say he's awake, he's stable, and currently undergoing evaluation.
Thank you, Dr. Scalia. Again, we're just so thankful that the officer or any other folks in the neighborhood were not severely harmed. Our thoughts are with him and his family and even the family of the deceased. Thankful to our BPD officers for bravely responding in the way that they did today and that they do each and every day, and being able to get this situation under control quickly. As the doc said and as the commissioner said, the officer is in great spirits. We had a good time to talk with him. We know his family's going to be here shortly and be with him. We're just very thankful to Dr. Scalia and the team here at Shock Trauma for always taking care of our folks and giving them the best care possible. Thank you. Questions?
We'll start with questions right here. We'll work our way around. We'll do one question per outlet.
So the suspect I know was deceased at the scene. Was he struck by gunfire by another officer, or was it self-inflicted?
No, our sniper officer shot him.
The person that jumped out of the window, is that the person who was being robbed in the original burglary home?
That is still uncertain. We do know that he was also, after that person jumped out the window, the suspect appeared at the window with a gun to the head of another individual, family member, multiple times before he was shot.
Alexa?
So to clarify, there was a woman and another person who had the gun to their head in the house also? Is that
Yes, there was a second, after the person jumped out the window, the suspect still had a hostage and appeared at the window multiple times with the gun pointed at the young lady's head.
Can you talk about how long that all transpired before the suspect was killed?
Please, at the mic, Commissioner. Thank you.
It was relatively quick because he was firing on our officers. As soon as our SWAT team got there, we were able to take cover, and our SWAT sniper was able to take the shot. He took the shot.
Chris, WJL?
You said that you guys had to activate the critical incident response policy. Can you talk about what that kind of means exactly?
Yeah, it just means with all of our critical incidents, CERT investigates it. It starts the clock for when we release the body-worn camera video, pretty much.
Luke, Baltimore Sun?
Can you confirm the number of officers who were injured again, or just the one?
Just one, yes. He was shot.
Channel 2?
We saw, one of our reporters saw a woman being escorted out of the house, and she apparently had some blood on her. Do we know whether that was the woman who had the gun pointed at her head? Do we know the relationship, if at all, between the gunman and that woman?
We don't know exactly. We know it was a family member. We don't think she was injured at all, but she was taken to the hospital for evaluation.
A family member of the person who jumped out the window, or
a family member of the deceased.
Any last questions?
Was it all was a burglary?
Yes, it's a burglary in progress.
How many officers are on standard leave because of how many officers is leave fired? Just one.
One.
Last question.
So the suspect I know were called for a burglary, but the suspect was related to some of the people in the house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, there you have it from Baltimore. Story we've been covering since within an hour of it breaking, and now we have our final update live in that press conference. And good to hear that the officer who was shot is doing okay. Let's get back out to the White House. The press briefing is ongoing. Let's go back to Caroline Levitt and the assembled press in Washington, D.C.
go to the back row for some love. Sure, in the back with the glasses. Go ahead.
Regarding the shield of the Americas,
Caroline, and then you can go, but go first.
Okay, thank you.
Is there an update regarding?
You have rough real estate back there, so I'm trying to give you some love.
Is there an update regarding Cuba, and also is an economic deal imminent?
Sure. I don't have any updates on Cuba for you today. Obviously, this is something the administration is actively dealing with. The president's made it quite clear, it's his belief, based on fact, that the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is obviously in a very weak place, economically speaking. The people are crying out for help, and the president believes and knows that the Cuban regime wants a deal. So as you know, Secretary of State Rubio has been engaged in those conversations as directed by the president. I don't have any updates for you today, though.
Thank you, Caroline. Regarding the Shield of the Americas, the initiative by President Trump this weekend, big names, a lot of countries, but some notable absences. For instance, Colombia, which is a key ally with the United States in terms of counter-narcotics. And President Gustavo Petro was here at the White House, and he met with President Trump. Why wasn't Colombia invited to the Shield of the Americas?
I don't think we're seeing the level of cooperation we quite want to see yet from the Colombian government to invite them to the Shield of America's event in PACT, but we certainly hope that this newfound organization will expand and we can continue to invite additional member countries. But there was quite a few countries there. I believe there were 17 countries represented, 12 heads of state with the president over the weekend. They signed a defense agreement with all of our militaries to emphasize the need to combat drug cartels through Latin America in the Western Hemisphere, and ultimately, of course, to curb the illegal trafficking of drugs to the United States, which is the president's utmost priority in all of this. So it was a great event on Saturday, and we look forward to the coalition expanding. Kelly in the back.
Caroline, thank you. Good to see you. I want to get back to another question that was asked earlier. It talked about the political aspects, but there's also the ideological and the spiritual aspects of what Iran has said for 47 years. Death to America, death to Israel. And we've just finished talking about the fact that terror has been around the world. Iran has been the nexus of that in so many ways. Has the president stated clearly to the American people why this is such an imminent threat in order for Democrats on Capitol Hill and Republicans and the American people to understand how imminent the threat was?
I think he has, Kelly. I mean, you've heard from the president on an almost daily basis over the course of the past 10 days. You've heard it from me at this podium. You've heard it from the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, the Vice President of the United States. You know, the president's top cabinet and his officials have been repeatedly explaining to the American public the threat that Iran has posed to our country in this moment, but of course over the course of the past 47 years. And their words, again, chanting death to America, speak for themselves. Go ahead. You can follow up.
Why the division within the American people? I realize that we have the people are talking about the War Powers Act. They're talking about all kinds of issues. But have people forgotten just how imminent that threat was? If they keep saying death to America and death to Israel, they mean it.
Look, I don't think the American people have forgotten, but I think Democrats on Capitol Hill, they have not forgotten, but they are just so plagued with this resistance to President Trump on everything that they do that, again, they can't even rally behind the common sense, bipartisan, long-standing principle of the United States of America that Iran absolutely poses a threat to the United States, that Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, and I think that's reflected again in their voting pattern. In 2023, every single member of the House of Representatives, with the exception of one, I believe the final vote was 412 to 1 in 2023 for a resolution condemning Iran as the world's state leading sponsor of terror. And now in this year, under this president, in 2026, 53 Democrats voted against that exact same resolution with the exact same language. I don't think that's a change in the threat that Iran has posed to the United States. I think it's a change in the Democrat Party's thinking and their vicious hatred for President Trump. Danny? Sure.
National threat level, following on Kelly, what's the national threat level right now because of this death to America, death to Israel issue?
I believe the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have repeatedly and continuously provided updates on the threat level to the homeland. I don't want to speak on it out of turn from up here, but of course, the federal government is continuing to coordinate and partner with local law enforcement agencies across the ground to thwart potential threats to the homeland. This is something the administration obviously takes very seriously. We are thwarting threats that, frankly, most Americans don't know about because they never make headlines, but that's the great work that the Department of Homeland Security is doing, and it emphasizes and underscores the point of why Democrats need to fund and reopen fully the Department of Homeland Security right now. Danny.
School. Why did President Trump say yesterday that Iran may have Tomahawk missiles when there are only 3 other U.S. allies plus the U.S. that have those missiles and therefore could...
Look, again, as the president said yesterday, he will accept the conclusion of this investigation by the Department of War. I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about who may be responsible for this. We're not going to get ahead of the Department of War and the conclusion of that investigation. The president has a right to share his opinions with the American public, but he has said he'll accept the conclusion of that investigation. And frankly, we're not going to be harassed by the New York Times, who's been putting out a lot of articles on this, making claims that have just not been verified by the Department of War, to quickly wrap up this investigation because the New York Times is calling on us to do so.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Carolyn, with the DHS currently under a partial Democrat shutdown, does the administration have any specific concerns about potential impact on Homeland Security or intelligence monitoring of sleeper cells inside the United States? And do you have any comment on the bombing, the 2 individuals that bombed New York City or tried to?
Yeah, it was absolutely despicable to see that attack in New York City. I know the FBI is investigating, and the Department of Justice and SDNY have announced they are charging those 2 individuals and alleged terrorists, and I know they won't rest until justice is sought in this case. Daniel.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it. Millions of Americans are filing taxes for the first time since the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. New reports say that new IRS data says that the average federal tax refund is around $3,800, a little bit up from the last period of last year. Does the president believe that the average federal tax refund increasing this year could provide a little bit more economic growth, something that he's been very focused on as the year progresses?
Absolutely. And Americans are going to start banking from the fruits of President Trump and Republicans' labor through the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill and these historic tax cuts. We are midway through tax season, so just to provide an update from the Treasury Department that just went out moments ago, nearly 63.5 million tax returns have been processed thus far, 45% of the anticipated total number of tax returns by April 15th, so don't forget to file your taxes, people. And the average refund this year is more than $3,700. And we know that more than 27.5 million individuals who have filed their tax returns thus far have claimed at least one of President Trump's new tax cuts. Over 3.5 million returns have claimed no tax on tips. Over 15.5 million returns have claimed no tax on overtime. Over 9.2 million returns have claimed the enhanced deduction for seniors. And over 690,000 returns have claimed no tax on car loan interest. And another amazing statistic, nearly 3.5 million Trump accounts have been opened for children in our country thus far. So we look forward to, I know the Treasury Department continues to look forward to seeing these checks go out the door and into the pockets of hardworking Americans, and the president will be meeting with them himself tomorrow on the road in both Ohio and Kentucky, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
Okay, we have Chuck Schumer speaking in Washington, D.C. as well. So let's go live to the senator now. We are bopping around rather quickly. We want to get there before his comments finish up. Let's listen in on Senator Schumer.
Against voting for Mullen, a colleague?
Look,
in that
the rot in ICE is deep. It's not one person. It goes deep within it. And what we need is not changing the personnel, but changing the law. That's what Democrats are for.
So are you guys going to be voting against him?
And we did not get out there quite in time to hear much comment from Senator Schumer. So instead, we're going to take a brief commercial break, and we'll finish up the show when we return. Welcome back to Live Impact News. We're actually going to focus in on an issue that has enveloped Virginia politics in many ways. There is a redistricting referendum coming up, available for voters in the Commonwealth to give their yes or no decision on the new congressional maps that have been drawn up in the House of Delegates right here in Virginia, or in the Virginia Congress, if you will. Now, as a part of that, there are campaigns for those votes occurring right now. One of those campaigns has sent out mailers and text messages evoking 1960s civil rights, Jim Crow era segregation and suppression as a part of their imagery, as a part of their campaign. It is anti-redistricting. It is an anti-redistricting campaign that is using that imagery as a part of their campaign. And earlier today, Mamie Locke and Don Scott both addressed this particular issue in a press availability. Let's go ahead and listen to what they had to say about this right now.
And as Dan mentioned, a MAGA Link group opposing the referendum is sending mailers to Black voters specifically that misuse hurtful imagery from the civil rights movement and even invoke Jim Crow, weaponizing one of the most hurtful and darkful chapters in our history to scare people into voting no and help Republicans rig the 2026 midterm elections. We will not fall for this divide and conquer tactic. These mailers are deeply offensive and deceptive. This scheme is shameful. The same MAGA Republicans pushing rigged districting maps to tilt the 2026 midterms in states like Texas and Florida are now exploiting the history of racial discrimination in Virginia to manipulate voters. It's cynical and deeply disrespectful, as I said. It is also disingenuous that they call themselves democracy and justice when they seek to do the complete opposite. We need to stop Trump's power grab. This referendum is about stopping the MAGA agenda and making sure the 2026 midterms are decided by voters, not politicians manipulating our elections. By voting yes, Virginians have the power to stop Trump's power grab, strip MAGA Republicans' unfair advantage, and ensure that midterms are decided on a level playing field by the voters, not politicians. It is voters whose voices will be heard on this issue. This isn't politics as usual. It is an emergency for our democracy. That's why Republicans are stooping to this low tactic that they're using. This temporary emergency measure is a short-term response to unprecedented national interference. This type of interference we saw on display in these deceptive mailers. We deserve better. Virginians deserve better. And we can deserve better if we vote yes on April 21st. I will now turn it over to Speaker Scott.
Thank you, Senator Locke. First, let me thank Senator Mamie Locke, who has been in this fight for a long time and has seen these type of tactics her entire life. Being from Mississippi, this is the kind of things that you would expect. So if you want to talk about real Jim Crow relics in this country, she has been fighting to dismantle one of the biggest ones we still have here in Virginia, felony disenfranchisement. I want to thank her for that fight, because for generations, that law has silenced the voices of thousands of Virginians. It's a direct descendant of Jim Crow, designed to keep Black people out of the ballot box. And so Senator Locke has worked tirelessly to change that. So it's always my honor to do anything with her. And I respect her so much for that fight. She's made it possible for people like me to have the voice that I have, having lost my rights myself. So to see these folks try to use this type of language to trick Black people is not only shameful, embarrassing for our state, but it's also very harmful to folks who've been impacted by the loss of the franchise of voting. Now, look, folks, when I see people sending mailers using images from the civil rights movement, brave men and women facing down the KKK, people who marched, who bled, who died for the right to vote, to try to trick Black voters in Virginia, I take that very personally. The civil rights movement is not a prop. And for them to do that and then to try to bring in another black man after the fact to say that he was involved with it when we know for a fact that was not the case. They brought him in after the fact. The blood and sacrifice of those who fought for the right to vote belongs to all of us, and it will not be hijacked by anonymous, MAGA-aligned political operatives trying to deceive our communities. And let's be clear about what's really happening here. Donald Trump put us all in this position. Donald Trump and Republican legislatures across the country are trying to rig the midterm elections because they know their policies are so unpopular, no one in their right mind would continue to support them.
Okay, back here in the Live Impact News studio because we have to wrap. We don't get to see the end of those comments, but that referendum will be decided April 21st. Voting early, that option open right now for that referendum. That does it for us here on Live Impact News. For Nia Campbell, I'm Connor Reel. Thanks for joining us, everybody.